All right, let's see. Let's start this unit. So we're going to identify the slope and the y-intercept of each line. Okay, so let's take a look at question number 1. The slope. Okay, so I see the line. It would be nice if I had 2 points. So I'm just going to, the points that I can choose in this case are points where I can clearly see the x and the y coordinates. For example, I could choose this point. You guys can see the coordinates are the x coordinate is -3, the y coordinate is +4. Now let me show you a point that is not good. All right, so let me draw a point that is not good. That one I can see the y value is +3, but the x value I don't quite see it. Is in between -2 and -3. So I don't know that point, so that's a bad point. Now let me show you the points that are okay. I can choose this other point, and I think that's it. Okay. So those are the only points that I have. Sometimes I have more than 2 choices. So we learned last week that the slope was the rise. So the rise is how much up or down, up if it's positive, down if it's negative, rise over run. So how much do you move sideways? So first thing I have to do is identify the slope. So having those 2 points, I'm going to travel from one point to the other. As I mentioned last week, from the 2 points that I choose, I like to start from the one farthest left. So I'm going to start from this point. So I'm traveling from this point to the other point. So it seems like I'm going down. I'm going down 5 spaces. I'm going to put minus because it's going down. Or you guys can count how many squares. So let me just say that my slope to begin with, on the top, I have a -5. Again, it went down, so it's negative. And then it goes to the right 3 spaces, right? You guys can count the squares there. So my slope is -5 over +3. Now, when there is a negative sign, it doesn't matter if the negative is on the top or the bottom, it is going to come to the front of my fraction. So notice I'm going to do a fraction, and I'm bringing the negative sign to the front. Again, it doesn't matter if the negative is on the top or the bottom, it comes to the front of the fraction. And then I have my fraction is 5 over 3. If you can simplify the fraction, by all means do so. In this case, we cannot. So when it comes to slope, that's it. Right, I had to find, to begin with, I had to find the slope. Now, let me work on the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, we can see the y-axis, right? We can see the y-axis. I want to know what's the point where I intersect, where I cross the y-axis. So I'm looking at the y-axis. As a matter of fact, to help you guys out, I label it y, right? The y-axis is that dark line. And I want to know where's that axis, that black line, and my line, where do they cross? They cross at this point. Now, the y value in that case is a -1. So my y-intercept is a -1. So matter of fact, I could even do this as a point. I can do this as a coordinate, 0, -1. Now, you guys might be wondering, how did I get that -1 from? So what I'm looking at, let me zoom in. Okay, let me highlight the x-axis. Notice how the point that I was looking at is one square below the x-axis, so it's -1. If it was 2 below, I would call that -2. If it is above, so over, the x-axis is +1, +2, +3, on and on. All right, let's take a look at question number 2. Let me start with the slope. Again, I'm going to choose points. I could choose this point, this point. I could choose this point or this point. I'm marking the points that I can choose. Those are the points that I can clearly see the x and the y coordinates. Now, I only need to choose two, right? I have choices. So let's say I don't want to use this point or this point. So you guys can see the 2 points that I'm using, right? So I'm going to travel. So it seems like I'm going up 4 spaces. So positive 4 because I went up, and then I go 2 to the right. So my slope is 4/2. There's no negative sign, so my slope will be a fraction. Now I can simplify this fraction. Let me divide each by 2. So this becomes 2/1, right? 4 divided by 2, 2 divided by 2. Now any fraction over 1 is not a fraction anymore. So 2/1, I'm going to say in this case, my slope is 2. I know at the very beginning I had points to choose from. Remember, there were 4 points on the graph, and then I said choose one. It doesn't matter which, choose 2 points. It doesn't matter which 2 points you choose. Once we simplify the slope, we get the same thing. Okay, and then I have to find the y-intercept, right? I see the point where I cross the y-axis is this one. It is 1 space below the x-axis. So again, this one, my y-intercept is going to be -1. If I have to do this as a coordinate point, it is 0, -1. All right, let's take a look at question number 3. Let me do my slope first. I'm going to choose this point, and let's choose this point. Let me go like that. Okay, so I'm going to choose those 2 points, and I'm going to start traveling from this point. So it seems like I have to go up 3 and then 0 sideways. So 3/0. Okay, let me come back to that in a minute, okay? Let me take a look at number 4. 2 points that I can choose are this one and this other one. And I'm gonna start traveling from this point. So it seems like I go up 0, right? I don't move up or down. I just go to the side 4. There are 2 special cases when I have a 0 either on the top or the bottom of my fraction. If you guys grab a calculator, I recommend you guys pause the video and do it for you guys to see. Guys, grab a calculator and you guys go 3 divided by 0. More than likely, your calculator is going to say error. Sometimes it even gives you the rule. We cannot divide by 0, okay? So type it in if you don't believe me, 3 divided by 0. Now, error, that means we cannot do it. Now, in mathematics, the way we usually say it is we can't do it. We abbreviate this as does not exist. So it doesn't exist, DNE. But then we figure that does not exist sounds kind of simple. So we're going to use the word undefined. Now, undefined means we cannot figure the slope, right? It doesn't exist. I cannot go 3 divided by 0. Like I said, if you guys type in your calculator, more likely it's going to say undefined. Now, question number 4, if I go 0 divided by 4, it gives me 0. So when the zeros at the bottom is undefined, when the zeros on the top, it is 0. Now, some of you might be wondering, what if I have 0 on top and the bottom? Ask Siri, it doesn't know how to do it. 0 divided by 0, it tells you that it doesn't know how to do it. Now, it does exist. 0 divided by 0, it does exist. But that's calculus 1. Okay, you guys want to find out what 0 divided by 0 is? I'll see you guys in calculus. Okay, so we figure the slope, right? It's undefined in this case for number 3 or 0 for number 4. Now, let me figure the y-intercept. For question number 3, let me highlight the y-axis. Because I'm talking about the y-intercept. Then I'm asking myself, where on the y-axis does my line cross the y-axis? it doesn't cross. So let me write, does not exist. See how sometimes in when you guys are texting, or you guys write IDK, right? We all know what IDK means. You guys see how you guys abbreviate? Well, that's what we have been doing in math. So does not exist, I'm just going to write DNE. Right? This case, question number 3, does not have a y-intercept. I never cross, this line will never cross the y-axis. Now, in regards for question number 4, it does cross it there. My y-intercept is +1. If I need to draw this as, or write this as a coordinate point, I write that as 0, 1. So let me show you guys what we did today.